Nia Bello stepped onto the stage, her heels clicking softly against the polished floor. She adjusted the microphone and took a deep breath, ready to deliver her keynote speech on multilingualism. But before she could utter her first sentence, a ripple of snickers spread through the audience. "Here we go again," muttered a woman in the front row, loud enough for those around her to hear. "Another one trying to prove something." Nia paused, her heart pounding. She had expected skepticism. This was an international conference after all. But the mocking tone stung more than she cared to admit. Still, she forced herself to smile and began speaking, her Nigerian accent clear and unwavering. "Good morning, everyone. Today I want to explore how language shapes empathy across cultures." Her words were cut short by another wave of laughter, this time louder and more brazen. Someone in the back called out, "Is that even English? Sounds like a broken record." Nia clenched her fists beneath the podium, but kept her composure. She knew this moment wasn't just about her, it was about every voice silenced by prejudice, and she refused to let them win. As the murmurs grew louder, she noticed a man near the center aisle lean back in his chair, smirking. His suit screamed privilege, and his demeanor radiated arrogance. He raised a hand lazily, as if summoning attention without effort. "Yes, sir," Nia said, her voice steady despite the chaos swirling around her. "Oh, I'm sorry," he replied, his tone dripping with condescension. "I didn't realize we'd moved past qualifications and straight into accents as credentials." The room erupted into chuckles once more, but Nia's resolve hardened. This wasn't over, not by a long shot. The man stood up, brushing imaginary lint off his tailored jacket. "Gregory Langston," he announced, extending a hand toward no one in particular. "CEO of Langston Global. Perhaps you've heard of us?" A few people clapped politely, while others rolled their eyes at his self-importance. Nia ignored the gesture and instead fixed him with a steely gaze. "Mr. Langston, is there a point to your interruption?" He smirked, clearly enjoying the spotlight. "Well, yes, actually, you see, Ms. Bello," she supplied curtly. "Ah, yes, Ms. Bello. I couldn't help but wonder, are you truly qualified to speak on multilingualism? Or are you simply banking on your unique pronunciation to impress us?" Murmurs rippled through the crowd, some agreeing with Gregory, others shifting uncomfortably in their seats. One attendee whispered audibly, "She probably learned these languages from YouTube tutorials." Nia felt a surge of anger but pushed it down. Instead, she tilted her head slightly, her expression unreadable. "If you'd allow me to continue, Mr. Langston, I believe I can address your concerns and perhaps teach you something along the way." Gregory crossed his arms, feigning interest. "By all means, enlighten us." His patronizing tone only fueled the tension in the room. Nia knew she had to act quickly or risk losing control entirely. Without hesitation, Nia launched into her response, switching seamlessly into French. "Comme vous pouvez le voir, maîtriser plusieurs langues n'est pas une question d'accent, mais de compréhension culturelle." The audience froze, stunned by the fluidity of her delivery. Encouraged, she transitioned into Spanish. "El lenguaje es más que palabras, es una conexión humana." Next came Mandarin, each syllable crisp and precise. "Yuyan bujinjin shijiaoliu de gongju, ta hai shijiaoliang." Then Arabic, its melodic cadence filling the room. "اللغة هي وسيلة لنشر السلام والتفاهم بين الشعوب." Finally, she switched to German, her voice firm and commanding. "Sprachen verbinden Welten, die sonst getrennt wären." For a brief moment, silence reigned. The attendees stared at her wide-eyed, unsure how to react. Some looked impressed, while others appeared uneasy, as though witnessing something they hadn't anticipated. Gregory, however, remained unfazed. He leaned forward slightly, his smirk widening. "Impressive, I'll admit, but fluency doesn't equate to expertise, does it?" Nia met his gaze, unflinching. "Perhaps not, but it proves that assumptions based on bias rarely hold water. Her words hung in the air, sharp and deliberate. Yet even as she spoke, she sensed that this confrontation was far from resolved. As the tension in the auditorium lingered, Nia's mind drifted momentarily to her childhood in Lagos. She remembered sitting cross-legged on the kitchen floor, watching her mother stir a pot of jollof rice while teaching her French conjugations. La. Table est mise, her mother would say, pointing to the dining table. Repeat after me, Nia. Later, her father would read Shakespeare aloud during family dinners, his deep voice bringing Hamlet to life. To be or not to be, that is the question, he'd recite, encouraging Nia to mimic his intonation. And then there was her older brother, who spent hours practicing Chinese characters after school, determined to master yet another language. Together they built a foundation of resilience and determination, a testament to what could be achieved despite limited resources. These memories grounded Nia, reminding her why she stood here today. But as she returned her focus to the present, she realized that Gregory's presence loomed larger than ever. Gregory finally broke the silence, his chair scraping loudly against the floor as he stood. "Well, Ms. Bello, you've certainly given us quite the show," he said, his tone laced with thinly veiled disdain. He adjusted his tie and turned to leave, muttering under his breath, "But don't think this ends here, not by a long shot." Though his words were barely audible, they carried weight. Nia watched him stride toward the exit, her instincts screaming that his departure wasn't an admission of defeat. It was preparation for retaliation. Before she could process his cryptic warning, a young woman in the corner caught her eye. Pen in hand, she scribbled furiously in a notebook, her expression unreadable. Lila Monroe observed Nia with quiet intensity, jotting down notes that hinted at a deeper agenda. She had been following stories like this for years, tales of systemic racism disguised as professional critique. As the audience began filing out of the auditorium, Lila approached Nia cautiously. "That was quite the performance," she said, her tone neutral but probing. Nia raised an eyebrow. "Performance? Is that what you think this was?" Lila held up her hands defensively. "Not at all. In fact, I think your story deserves more attention. If you're willing, I might be able to help expose the truth behind Langston's behavior." Her offer lingered in the air, leaving Nia uncertain whether to trust her or prepare for another battle. Nia's phone buzzed incessantly. On her kitchen counter, the screen lighting up with an unknown number. She hesitated before answering, her heart already heavy with dread. "Ms. Bello," came a clipped voice on the other end. "This is HR from Innovatech Solutions. We regret to inform you that your offer has been rescinded." The words hit like a punch to the gut. Rescinded. Her dream job gone. "What do you mean?" she asked, struggling to keep her voice steady. "There have been concerns about the validity of your credentials," the HR representative continued, avoiding any direct explanation. "Specifically regarding your language proficiencies." Nia froze, her mind racing back to Gregory Langston's smug face at the conference just days earlier. Could he really have orchestrated this? "That's absurd," she shot back. "I've spent years mastering those languages. You can verify my qualifications." "We understand," the HR rep replied, their tone cold and dismissive. "However, when allegations arise from someone of Mr. Langston's stature," they trailed off, letting the implication hang in the air. Nia slammed the phone down, her hands trembling. The injustice burned hotter than ever. How could someone destroy her career over prejudice and lies? Determined to fight back, Nia dialed Innovatech again, demanding answers. When another HR representative picked up, she launched into her defense. "I don't understand how these baseless accusations are even being considered," Nia said, frustration lacing every word. "Can we speak to someone higher up?" There was a long pause before the HR rep responded. "Ms. Bello, let me be candid here. These kinds of accusations, they're not uncommon for candidates from certain backgrounds. Certain backgrounds? Nia repeated, her voice sharp. Are you saying my race plays a role in whether I'm trusted or not? Well, it's not about that specifically, they hedged, clearly uncomfortable. But when high-profile individuals raise questions, companies tend to err on the side of caution. Their thinly veiled bias left Nia seething. It wasn't just Gregory, it was the system itself, built to protect privilege at all costs. As she hung up, tears stinging her eyes, she realized fighting alone wouldn't be enough. She needed allies. Later that evening, as Nia scrolled through LinkedIn looking for leads, a message notification popped up. It was from Ethan Choi, a former colleague she hadn't spoken to in years. Saw what happened at the conference, his message read. We need to talk. They met at a quiet cafe downtown, where Ethan wasted no time getting to the point. Gregory Langston has a pattern, he began, leaning across the table. He targets minority professionals, especially women, and sabotages their careers if they threaten his dominance. How do you know this? Nia asked, skepticism warring with hope. I worked under him once, Ethan admitted. After seeing too many brilliant colleagues pushed out, I started documenting everything. Promotions denied, diversity initiatives blocked. He's been playing this game for decades. Ethan slid a USB drive across the table. This contains emails, memos, everything. If anyone can take him down, it's you. Nia stared at the drive, her pulse quickening. For the first time since this nightmare began, she felt a flicker of power returning to her grasp. Back home, Nia plugged the USB drive into her laptop, bracing herself for what she might find. What unfolded was worse than she'd imagined. A labyrinth of corruption woven into the fabric of corporate culture. Email threads revealed Gregory blocking funding for diversity programs, citing business priorities, while funneling resources elsewhere. Another memo detailed how he'd pressured universities to retract fellowship offers extended to minority scholars. And then there were the personal attacks, smear campaigns, fabricated complaints, and outright firings, all targeting talented individuals who dared challenge his authority. One document particularly stood out, a confidential report showing how Gregory had manipulated statistics to claim diversity initiatives hurt company performance. Beneath it, a note scribbled in red ink, "Keep them quiet, keep them out." As Nia absorbed the enormity of Gregory's crimes, anger gave way to resolve. This wasn't just about her anymore. It was about dismantling the toxic systems that allowed people like him to thrive unchecked. Just as Nia prepared to act on Ethan's evidence, disaster struck again. A private email thread between her and a close friend leaked online, messages filled with raw frustration over Gregory's sabotage. Within hours, social media exploded with accusations that Nia was unstable, vindictive, and unfit for leadership. What the hell is going on? Nia demanded, calling her friend frantically. I swear I didn't leak anything, the friend insisted, sounding panicked. Someone must have hacked my account. But the damage was done. News outlets ran headlines questioning Nia's mental health, painting her as unhinged and desperate. Even former supporters distanced themselves, unwilling to risk association with controversy. Alone and betrayed, Nia sank into her couch, feeling the walls closing in. Was this truly the end of her fight, or just the beginning of something darker? Amidst the chaos, Lila Monroe reappeared, sliding into a chair opposite Nia at a secluded diner booth. You've got quite the mess on your hands, she said bluntly, sipping her coffee. Thanks for stating the obvious, Nia snapped, exhaustion evident in her tone. Lila raised an eyebrow. Look, I get it, you're angry, but imagine turning this around. Imagine exposing Gregory for who he really is. And how exactly would I do that? Nia countered. Everyone already thinks I'm crazy. That's where I come in. Lila replied, leaning forward. "Give me proof, something explosive, and I'll make sure the world listens. But fair warning, half measures won't cut it." Her words lingered, planting seeds of possibility in Nia's mind. Could she trust Lila, or was this just another trap waiting to spring shut? Nia sat alone in her dimly lit apartment, the weight of her shattered life pressing down on her chest. Bills piled up on the kitchen counter, unpaid and mocking. Her savings were nearly depleted, and freelance opportunities had dried up after. The smear campaign against her went viral. Friends she once considered close now avoided her calls, their silence speaking volumes about fear and self-preservation. Social media didn't help. Comment sections buzzed with accusations that painted her as unstable or vindictive. Even former colleagues who'd praised her work now hesitated to associate with her name. The isolation was suffocating, a cruel reminder that standing up to power often came at an unbearable cost. She stared at her laptop screen, the damning evidence Ethan had provided, still waiting to be used. But what good was proof if no one would listen? For the first time, doubt crept into her mind. Was this fight worth it? Or was she simply digging herself deeper into a hole she couldn't escape? The phone rang, startling Nia out of her spiraling thoughts. It was her mother calling from Nigeria, her voice brimming with excitement. "Nia, my darling," her mother exclaimed, "I heard the wonderful news, your promotion. It's official now, yes? Oh, I'm so proud of you." Nia froze, clutching the phone tightly. Her throat tightened as guilt washed over her. How could she tell her mother the truth, that there was no promotion, no celebration, only ruin and betrayal? "That's amazing, Mama," Nia managed, forcing brightness into her tone. "I can't wait to share more soon." After hanging up, she collapsed onto the couch, tears streaming down her face. Her mother's pride felt like a knife twisting in her heart. She wanted nothing more than to shield her family from the pain she endured. But how could she, when the world seemed determined to crush her? Determined not to give up, Nia dove back into the files Ethan had given her, searching for something undeniable. Late one night, buried deep within a folder labeled Confidential Research, she found it, a plagiarized paper authored by Gregory Langston, but originally written by Dr. Amara Owusu, a Ghanaian scholar. The document included emails showing how Gregory had dismissed Dr. Owusu's work as unreliable due to supposed cultural bias, then repackaged it under his own name. Worse still, he'd used racial stereotypes to discredit her entirely, claiming her methodology lacked Western rigor. Nia's hands trembled as she read through the correspondence. This wasn't just plagiarism, it was theft masked by systemic racism, designed to erase a brilliant black voice from history. "This is it," she whispered to herself, adrenaline coursing through her veins. With this evidence, she could expose Gregory's hypocrisy on a global stage. Justice might finally be within reach. At another international summit weeks later, Nia stood backstage, her pulse racing as she prepared to confront Gregory Langston. Live on stage. The moderator introduced her, unaware of the bombshell she was about to drop. As Gregory took his seat, smirking confidently, Nia stepped forward, holding up the incriminating documents. "Mr. Langston," she began, her voice steady despite the storm inside her, "you've accused me of falsifying credentials, but perhaps we should discuss your own academic integrity or lack thereof." Gasps rippled through the audience as she projected images of the plagiarized research onto the screen behind her. "This groundbreaking study wasn't yours. It belongs to Dr. Amara Owusu, whose work you stole and discredited using racial bias." Gregory's smirk faltered, replaced by panic. "That's preposterous," he sputtered. "These allegations are baseless." But Nia pressed on, laying bare the web of deceit he'd spun for decades. For the first, initially, murmurs of disbelief spread among the crowd. Many attendees sided with Gregory, dismissing Nia's claims as revenge tactics. Then Lila struck. From her seat in the front row, She live-streamed additional exposés, videos of Gregory admitting to blocking diversity initiatives, emails detailing smear campaigns against other minority professionals. Social media erupted, hashtags like Expose Langston trending worldwide. Within minutes, public opinion shifted decisively. Attendees turned on Gregory, jeering as security escorted him off stage. Cameras flashed, capturing his humiliation for the world to see. For Nia, the victory was bittersweet, but undeniable. The tide had turned, and justice was finally within reach. The exposé devastated Gregory Langston's empire overnight. Companies scrambled to distance themselves, severing ties, with the disgraced CEO as damning evidence continued to surface. Headlines screamed his downfall. Langston Global abandoned CEO amid scandal, corporate titan exposed for decades of racism. Gregory tried fighting back, issuing weak denials and blaming cancel culture, but the public wasn't buying it anymore. His once impenetrable facade crumbled under the weight of irrefutable proof. By the end of the week, he was stripped of his titles, his board positions, and even his speaking engagements at future conferences. For Nia, watching him fall felt like justice served, not just for herself, but for every voice silenced by his prejudice. Yet she knew this was only the beginning. Dismantling systemic racism required more than one man's ruin. It demanded collective action. In the aftermath of the scandal, Nia found herself thrust into the spotlight, not as a victim, but as a beacon of resilience. Offers poured in from organizations eager to champion her cause, but one stood out: an invitation to lead a global diversity initiative aimed at transforming corporate cultures worldwide. "This is your chance to rewrite the rules," Ethan told her during a celebratory dinner. Nia accepted the role with humility, knowing its significance. Her first act? Establishing mentorship programs for minority professionals, ensuring others wouldn't face the same barriers she had. She also spearheaded policy reforms, holding companies accountable for their diversity promises. As news outlets praised her leadership, Nia remained grounded, reminding herself and everyone else that true progress came not from accolades, but from meaningful change. Despite her pivotal role in exposing Gregory, Lila Monroe struggled with her own motivations. Over coffee one afternoon, she confessed to Nia, "I'll admit, I saw this as my big break, a way to make a name for myself." Nia raised an eyebrow, unsure how to respond. "But seeing you fight, it made me realize something," Lila continued. "Stories like yours deserve more than clicks or views. They deserve respect." True to her word, Lila shifted her focus, using her platform to amplify marginalized voices instead of chasing fame. Together, she and Nia collaborated on articles and documentaries highlighting systemic inequities, turning their partnership into a force for good. Months later, Nia returned to Lagos for the first time in years, invited to speak at a university conference celebrating African excellence. Standing before a packed auditorium, she delivered a heartfelt speech about embracing identity despite adversity. "My accent wasn't a flaw. It was a bridge connecting me to my heritage," she declared, her voice steady yet passionate. "And my journey taught me that no system can suppress what's meant to shine." Her words resonated deeply, earning standing ovations and sparking conversations across campuses. For Nia, reconnecting with her roots reignited her purpose, grounding her in the values that had carried her through life's toughest battles. Supporting characters flourished alongside Nia's success. Ethan launched a non-profit mentoring young minorities entering STEM fields, inspired by Nia's determination. Meanwhile, Nia's family celebrated her achievements, hosting a lively feast where laughter and pride filled the air. Even Lila found fulfillment, trading sensational headlines for impactful storytelling. As each person grew, so did the ripple effect of Nia's victory, a testament to the power of unity in overcoming injustice. Just as Nia thought the story had reached its conclusion, a surprising confession emerged. A former mentee of Gregory's approached her privately, revealing he'd secretly funded part of her investigation. "I enabled his behavior for too long," he admitted, shame etched on his face. "This was my attempt to make amends." Though startled, Nia chose forgiveness over resentment, recognizing redemption when she saw it. The revelation left her and the audience with lingering questions about morality, accountability, and the possibility of second chances. If you liked this video, like, share, and subscribe for more stories that inspire change.